Alright, so I told myself that I was going to try to get battles using a non-stalling team, but I forgot that one does not simply kill Umbreon. So yeah, as you can see from this battle, it's pretty long. I believe it was like 60 turns, but trust me, it was a pretty good battle. And there's actually a bit of a story behind this battle. The night that I had this battle, the day after that was going to be my senior presentation night, which was actually today. I presented my senior presentation earlier, and I was just really not like focused in this battle, and I played way too safely in this battle, but in the end, it did turn out to be a pretty good battle, and I definitely hope you guys will enjoy it. I am using a team I got from my boy CK Smooth, aka AJ. Looking up there to my opponent's side of the field, if Zapdos and Shaman turn out to be offensive, that will apply a lot of pressure on my Umbreon, so I have to be careful with those two. But yeah, the battle's already started. So I'm going to be leading off with my Scarf Manchow, as he's going to be leading off with his Victini. Now, obviously, I do not want to take a V-Create, so I decided to make a safe switch and U-turn out into my Blastoise, as he ends up going for his own U-turn. And judging for how much damage that U-turn did, I know for a fact that that Victini is definitely going to be Scarf, which means it isn't as big of a threat as it could be if it was banded. So thinking that he would just go for the Seed Flare, I'm actually going to switch into my Victini, which is a little offensive, but that's kind of the idea behind this team. It's just to do as much damage with banded Victini and Honchkrow as possible. So he actually ends up double switching into his Hitmontop, expecting me to bring in my Umbreon. Then thinking that he wouldn't go for the Sucker Punch, I'm actually going to bring in my Manchow as he makes another switch into the Swampert, thinking I would go for the V-Create. And I know that he more than likely is going to go for the Stealth Rocks, so I'm going to go for the Reckless High Jump Kick, and that does not do nearly as much damage as I thought it would. I was greatly disappointed by how much damage that High Jump Kick did, but I know because this turn he's going to be tempted to go for the Scald, the Waterfall, or Earthquake, that I can get a free switch into my Umbreon. As you saw there, Earthquake really does not do that much damage to me, so I was pretty happy about that, and I'm actually just going to go straight for the Wish because really I have no reason not to go for it. As he switches into the Empoleon, something in my mind was telling me that this Empoleon is going to be Specs, and if it is Specs, then that's even more pressure than my Umbreon is going to have on its back to be able to take special hits. But thankfully for me, it just turns out that he is more than likely the regular specially defensive set, as he ends up going for the Roar. He is going to roar me out into my Choice Banded Victini, and nothing on his team really appreciates a Choice Banded V-Create, and he's going to bring in Team Player. Now look at this damage. That is an easy 2-hit KO thanks to the prior damage I got off with Manchow's High Jump Kick, and I'm going to be able to get rid of his Stealth Rocker. Then again, he could have rocks on Empoleon, but it's really rare for a team to carry 2 Stealth Rockers, so I know that more than likely as soon as I spin away his rocks, nothing else on his team will actually set up hazards. So he's going to bring in the Zapdos, and I am at -2 special defense, so I'm going to switch directly into my Umbreon as he ends up going for the Thunderbolt, and that Thunderbolt does way too much damage, which automatically tells me that obviously he is offensive because, as you saw there, he did take the Life Orb damage. And I'm thinking that after a Protect, thanks to those extra bit of Lefty's HP, I should be able to live one more Thunderbolt unless he gets like absolute maximum damage. And I do just barely live on like 1 or 2%, and I'm going to be able to go for the Wish, and then the following turn I'm going to be able to go for the Protect. Even though it is so painfully obvious, I am not in a position where I cannot go for the Protect because I know that Umbreon will definitely be a great help to me in this battle, so I have to go for the Protect, as he does predict that he's going to bring in the Victini, and I know that this Victini isn't banded, so I'm really not worried about anything that he wants to go for, and I'm just going to go for the Protect. Scout out to see what he wants to lock himself into. Above that, I'm going to be able to gain a bit more of Leftovers HP. As he locked himself into the V-Create, I'm going to switch directly into my Blastoise because this is my perfect opportunity for me to spin away these damn Stealth Rocks because I don't want my team taking damage upon every switch in. So he's going to stay in, predicting me to go for the Rapid Spin. As I do go for it, the following turn, I thought that I could outspeed Victini, but I knew that I might have not been able to take him out. So I just make the safe play by bringing in my Gligar, because after bringing in Gligar and him being at -3 speed, I should be able to outspeed him, either go for the Earthquake, go for the Stealth Rocks, or maybe even go for a Roost. But ultimately, I decided to go for the U-turn just because I want to start getting some offensive momentum into my favor and just start destroying some of his Pokemon, which is why I'm actually going to U-turn on out directly into my Victini. And normally, I don't run U-turn on Gligar because if I actually had Toxic in this battle, I would have gone for it, poisoning the Zapdos, making it a whole lot easier to deal with. But a U-turn is pretty good on Gligar because I'm able to get some momentum. As I did U-turn out to my Victini, I go for the Bandit V-Crate and just barely miss out on the KO on the Victini that he has. So I'm just going to switch right into my Blastoise, basically a spotter, thinking that maybe he would go for a V-Crate or maybe even go for a Bolt Strike, but he actually makes the safer play, which is a U-turn, and he just ends up U-turning on down to a Shaman. Now obviously I don't want to take a Seed Flare, so I'm going to switch directly into my Umbreon. As he goes for the Seed Flare, I don't see any Life Orb Recall, which automatically tells me that that Shaman is definitely Specsed. So I'm going to go for the Protect because thankfully for me he did not get the Spadef drop, and I can then go for the Protect and gain back a little bit of leftovers. As he actually ends up switching directly into his Victini, predicting that, I can now just go for the Protect again. Scouting got to see what he wants to lock himself into, and at the amount of HP my Gligar was at, I don't think I would have been able to take 2 more V-Crates. Maybe I could have, but either way at this point Blastoise was kind of death fodder for me, and I really didn't have much use for it, because now I can get a free switch into my Manchow, and I know that he is going to be tempted to switch out, and even if he doesn't, I will be able to take out the Victini, but he does end up switching out into his Hitmontop, allowing me to U-turn on out to the big boss, which is Honchkrow, and I am adamant max attack with Life Orb, so something on his team is going to be taking a pretty good amount of damage from this stab Brave Bird, and is going to bring in the Empoleon. Now look at how much damage this does. That's a resisted hit, people. Empoleon has pretty good defenses. That did an easy 40%. And I know that the following turn, I can take him out with the Superpower, so that's what I'm going to go for. And he actually ends up switching out to a Zapdos, I guess predicting that, or maybe scouting out to see what I wanted to do, or thinking I would just go for another Brave Bird. And this is a situation where I wish I had Substitute because I could have subbed up on his switch out and then gone from there, but I still get off a good amount of damage on the Zapdos. Obviously, I don't want to take a possible Thunderbolt, and even though the Roost is very, very obvious, my best switch-in right now is going to be my Umbreon because I know that my Honchkrow should be able to put in some work to his team later on in the battle. So, as he does go for the Roost, I can just stay in here, go for a Wish, because I know at the amount of HP that I'm at, I will easily be able to live one Thunderbolt, barring the fact that he doesn't get a crit. And he's just going to end up switching out into his Hitmontop, which is fine by me. I'm not really too worried about the Hitmontop so long as I have my Honchkrow around. So I'm just going to stay in, go for the Protect, just kind of to get my Wish recovery and be able to stall out a PP of Close Combat, because if he runs out of Close Combats, then he's not going to be able to touch my Umbreon. But he actually switches into the Zapdos on my Protect, which isn't a big deal, and I'm just going to stay in and go for the Wish, scouting to see what he wants to do. As he switches into the Victini, this was actually a bit risky for him, but I switch it to my own Victini, knowing that I can take a Thunderbolt, then gain the Wish recovery, click V-Create, and just watch something get destroyed on his team. But that is not the case, as he double down to his Victini. I did bring him my own Victini, and he's just going to go for the U-turn, which isn't a big deal, because now I can go for my own U-turn as he brings back in the Hitmontop. And honestly, what I should have done was just gone for the V-Create and not the U-turn, but at the time I really didn't think about that. So yeah, that was a dumb play on my part, because I U-turned back out into my Gligar. As this turn, I should have gone for the U-turn, but again, I was not thinking about that because I did have other stuff on my mind, mainly my senior presentation. So my first move that I wanted to go for that came to mind was Roost, so I went for that. As he brought in the Zapdos, I am going to be forced to switch out, fearing a Hidden Power Ice, so I'm going to switch into my Umbreon, as he actually ends up bringing in his Victini. I guess maybe he predicted this, or I don't really know, but I know at the amount of HP that I'm at, I can't take a V-Crate, but thinking that he would go for the V-Crate, expecting me to Protect and switch out, what I'm going to do is actually bring in my Gligar. That way I can take the V-Crate, then go for my own U-turn on his switch out, and bring in Honchkrow or Victini and just click a stab move and watch something get smashed. But no, he does go for the U-turn. U-turns on now into his Zapdos, and again, I do not want to take a Hidden Power Ice, so I switch directly into my Umbreon as he does go for the HP Ice. Luckily, it doesn't do anything, actually. And I'm just going to stay in and just rinse and repeat, just basically go for the Wish, because one does not simply take out Umbreon, but actually go for the foul play, thinking that he would predict me to Wish, bringing in the Victini, that way he could force me to switch out. But no, he does make the save play, which is a Hitmontop, and in hindsight, what I should have done was gone for the Wish, but it's not too big of a deal, as I'm going to bring in my Gligar. He does make a bit of an over prediction by going for the Close Combat, and now I can go for the U-turn, and U-turn on now into my Victini or Honchkrow, right? No, I actually end up going for the Stealth Rocks. And the fact that I actually got up Rocks kind of helps me out later on in the battle, in a couple turns actually. But again, I do not want to take an HP Ice, and I really don't think that he is going to go for the Thunderbolt, so I'm going to switch directly into my Manchow, thinking that he would go for the Hidden Power Ice, but he actually ends up going for the Roost, which isn't too big of a deal because I know that this turn he's going to be scared out of the fact that maybe I could go for the Stone Edge, allowing me to freely go for the U-turn as he brings in the Hitmontop. And now I can bring in Victini or bring in Honchkrow, and I make the dumber play by bringing in a Honchkrow, because if I had just brought in my Victini, I could have clicked V-Create and just literally destroyed something on his team. But by bringing in Honchkrow, I now force him to bring in Zapdos or bring in the Empoleon, which obviously are not going to be taken out by the Brave Bird. And as he does bring in the Zapdos, this Brave Bird does a shitload of damage. That actually did a whole lot more than I thought it would. And this turn, I predicted him to predict me, to predict him to roost. Then I would go for the Brave Bird, and that way he could take me out with the Thunderbolt, which is why I actually went for the Sucker Punch, thinking that he would go for the Thunderbolt, allowing me to take him out and get the Moxie boost. But no, he does make the safe play, which is the roost, and thanks to that HP that he got back, he's going to just barely be able to live the Sucker Punch. Luckily though, I brought him down to a point where he will die off to the Life Orb recoil, so that's really good for me because that takes off a bit of pressure on my Umbreon. That takes off some pressure on my Umbreon, sorry. And on the double down, I'm going to bring in my Manchow as he brings in the Hitmontop. I make another dumb play by going for the Aerial Ace when a Reckless Stab neutral high jump kick does more than a stab, not stab, sorry, but more than a super effective Aerial Ace. So yeah, that was a dumb play on my part. As he spins away the hazards, I'm going to bring in my Gligar as he actually ends up switching into the Empoleon, which really was obvious, and I should have seen this coming, but I still just made the safe switch into my Gligar, and I don't want to take a possible Ice Beam or Scald, and if he does go for the Scald, then there's a chance that he can burn me. That way I could synchronize it over to the Empoleon, but he does go for the Ice Beam. Thankfully, he doesn't freeze me, and I'm going to be able to take this opportunity to go for a Wish, or actually go for the Foul Play, which I do end up doing, thinking that, again, he would bring in Victini, predicting me to go for the Wish. And you're going to see that me actually getting off all this little bit of damage on him on top is actually going to be really helpful to me. As he switches out into the Victini, expecting me to go for a Wish possibly, I'm actually going to double out into my Gligar. And I know that Victinis don't tend to carry Hidden Power Ice, even if they are choiced. So I'm not fearing anything that this Victini wants to go for. And I'm just going to go straight for my own U-turn because finally I make a good play. And I do go for the better play, which is a U-turn. And I'm going to U-turn right on out into my Umbreon now. Yes, I could have U-turned out into my Victini, but because this Shaman is Specs and more than likely a timid nature, as where my Victini is also a plus speed nature, if he did win the speed tie, he could possibly take me out with an Earth Power. So by bringing in my Umbreon, I'm going to be able to bait him to go for the Seed Flare. After going for the Protect to gain back a little bit of HP, I can then go for the Wish, and he does get the -2 in my special defense because of Seed Flare, which honestly I don't really care about because I was still just going to switch into my Victini either way, and I do manage to take the Seed Flare like a monster thanks to the fact that I do resist it. I gain my HP back, and I'm going to click V-Create, and something is going to get smashed. So he's going to bring in the Hitmontop, I guess maybe thinking that he would actually be able to live it after a -1, but nope, it dies. It's gone. It's gone. I don't know what else to say. And he's gonna bring in the Empoleon. And this turn, I make a bit of a stupid play by staying in because I actually completely forgot about the fact that he got the -1 in my attack. But I did run a calc, and at the amount of HP Empoleon was that, I might have had a chance to actually knock him out with the V-Create if I got absolute maximum damage. So in the end, I'm not too sure how much the crit actually ended up mattering because once Hitmontop was gone, I could have just brought in Manchow and high jump kick. And as he brings in the Shaman, I switch into my Gligar basically as fodder, but because he missed 2 Seed Flares, I get the free U-turn on now to my Victini, click my own U-turn, knock out the Shaman, and with this last being a Scarf Victini, my Scarf Manchow will be able to outspeed it, and the ending score is going to be a 4-0 victory in my favor. Now, the only reason the battle was even a 4-0 was because of the Seed Flare misses, because if he had hit the Seed Flare and taken on my Gligar, then I would have brought in Victini, U-turned out into my Umbreon as fodder to either his Shaman or to his Victini, whichever one he didn't let die off, and then I could have brought back in my Victini or brought in Manchow, knocked out his last Pokemon for the 2-0. So in the end, the miss with Seed Flare didn't matter. And as for that crit on Empoleon, as I said, I don't know if it really ended up mattering. I still don't think that it was really game-changing, but in the end, this was a really fun battle, a pretty good battle, and even throughout the battle, with me playing so safe and me making dumb plays, I was still able to pull out the victory, even though SpecsVictini did put up a very good fight. His channel link is going to be down in the description. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to see more content, and I will see you guys next time when I upload. Later.